Hello and welcome to the CPG podcast and this special Masters episode. My name's Aston Ward and I'm the Director of Communications and Membership for the CPG. And joining me is my colleague and our Communications and Event Manager, Tom Bentley. And it is safe to say we are absolutely looking forward to the Masters this year after what has been an unprecedented delay since the 2019 tournament. And two people who no doubt share that excitement with us are the two gentlemen that we've got with us this evening, who both have seen Augusta National Golf Club firsthand and what it has to offer.
As PGA Professionals and esteemed coaches in their own right, Allen and Rob Mouwen have had the incredible opportunity to work at Augusta, most notably with European Tour professional Joost, who I'm sure some of you will be familiar with, as part of his coaching team, and I'm sure that will form a key part of this conversation in the podcast over the next hour or so. Phil, perhaps we'll start with you, and just if you could just give a brief snapshot as to your career as a golf coach, so the listeners can get an idea as to who you are and what you've accomplished so far.
Yeah, I've been working over in Holland since 1996. I've coached numerous of national amateurs, quite a few of the golf pros, and this year, through my work and what I've done towards being a PGA professional, I have managed to achieve the Advanced Fellow PGA title. So it's been quite a good, you could say, 2020 with that. For
sure. And Rob, yourself?
Yeah, I'm coaching since 2000 and as a specialist putting coach since 2010. I worked with a couple of tour players as well, Joost Luiten. Gained some victories with him and with another famous Anne van Dam. She plays at the LPGA at this moment. And that's actually what I'm doing at this moment. Specialized putting coaching, and I have my own putt academy in the south of Holland.
Excellent stuff. So we're going to get some great coaching insights today then, by the sounds of it. Aston.
What better place to start really than is just a little bit more generally about Augusta National. Now, I think it's safe to say that every golfer who's ever watched the Masters has an image of it in their head, but very, very few people from that golfing world have actually been able to get in there and see it for themselves. So I think what we'd like to start with is just get a feel from both of you as to, what was it like that first time that you got to Augusta National Golf Club and you saw the incredible practice facilities, the incredible courses, and all those things that you probably imagine in your head, and then you got to see them in real life. Rob, I don't know if you want to start us off.
Yeah, of course. Well, the image you've got from Augusta National, from television, and when you get the image when you're for the first time over there, it doesn't correspond. It's totally different. The way the holes look, the practice facilities, you don't see it very often at television, all the facilities, but it's completely different. I was looking at the first hole and I was talking about, I don't recognize it. But now when I'm looking Augusta at television, I don't recognize it as well. So I have to switch between the live version and the television version. And it's big. It's really big with a lot of differences between the heights. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was there. I got the opportunity to be there with some amateur clients before I was there as a coach. And like what Rob said, you can't really explain the sensation when you walk on the property. You see the grass. I actually stroked the grass by the first tee, thinking, is it proper? It was so pedicured so perfectly, and then being there as coach, what Rob quite rightly said, the year that Joost played this first year there, they had rebuilt the complete practice facility for the pros. So the old driving area was a members area, and they literally just completely rebuilt something purely for that event. And it's surreal. To understand it, you need to be there to see it. It's an emotional week, really.
And more things like that. It's just not the course over there, but as well the suburbs, the surroundings over there. Because you live at, how is the road called there, Phil? Washington Road?
Yeah.
yeah, it's a normal American street road with Wendy's and the McDonald's, and then you come to Augusta National. So that's really strange to see that.
So when you're out there and you're walking around the course, you're probably going to have two viewpoints, perhaps. So we're interested to know, as a golf fan, where do you head to? Where's the first thing you go to? And then the other half of the question is, as a golf coach, where do you head to? Where's the important part that you're looking for?
Well, I'll go on that one. As a golf fan, you go to the merchandise shop.
Yes, to the shops.
Yeah, that shop, again, the year that Rob and I went there for the first year, it was a new shop. How many square meters was it, Rob? It was, I think it was the same as a shop, as a street shop.
As a supermercado, yeah. As a grocery store, yes.
A grocery, yeah. It's like, you could say it's like a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's. You go in there and it's just huge. It's unbelievable. And for a coach, yeah, the first place that I think with Rob, it was, we looked at the putting green together. It was wow. And then I went off to the driving range. And what's so funny is you have to wait for your player by the practice, by the driving range entrance. Without a player, you're not on the range. It's very, very strict on that side. And that's very different to all the other majors that I've worked at. And you're, okay, it's your rules. We stick to the rules. It is how it is.
That's the difficult part about Augusta National. As a coach, you need your player to move around the course. You're not allowed to get between the ropes. So actually coaching at Augusta National is not an easy job. I think the coaching has to be done in advance of the tournament. But getting between the ropes, it's not done on the course. The putting green, the range, it can be done. But the putting green, it's a little bit small over there. Phil, you don't think so?
Yeah.
Near the driving range. And you've got a small green near the first tee. But there you can be as a coach only when your player is there. They are very strict in their rules. And yeah, as a golf fan, you go to the shops, of course. You're buying flags and you're buying things like that. That's great. That's great. I never thought I would do that. You, Phil? We've seen a lot, but going to the shops.
I tell every major I go to the shop.
Okay.
Every single major I've been to with Joost, and that's since 2011. I've always bought something of that tournament. It's, I don't know, because it could be the last.
But over there, you've got 4 shops.
Yeah, I visited the one in the clubhouse with Joost, and they run out of the putters. Then I went to the big one. Then I went to the other one with Nico because we thought we could get something there. Yeah, there's shops everywhere. And that's why the turnover is how many millions? It's preposterous.
I've always felt if ever I'm lucky enough to make it there, then I'd have to probably go with mostly an empty suitcase and a bit of cash in my bank account.
We've got a FedEx shopping counter there.
Oh, perfect. We'll just use that. And that's even more dangerous.
Yeah. We just mentioned in a previous podcast episode with Ian Randall and Pascal Griso and Ken Schofield and Sandy Jones, we were talking about the merchandising, that it's the one tournament of the year and the one place in the year where you can only get Masters gear from the Masters. And you mentioned that, and you mentioned the bit about where you can't go onto the driving range without your player. It's those little nuances and those little traditions about the Masters that makes it so special and why it sticks out in everybody's memory, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. We were going through some bits on the range, ball shaping and stuff like that. And Rob and I were walking next to each other discussing certain game plan scenarios. And then all of a sudden, we saw him on, I think it was hole 5. And we wanted to talk to Joost, and we couldn't get his attention, you know, because the walking, the pathway from the side of the fairway to where the players are, you have to walk so far around. You just cannot communicate with the player. It's what Rob said. It's such a tough job. And then when you're going to the teeing area, then you can discuss things, what you've seen, how do you see this next hole, and then we're going to do that and that. Okay, let's have a look. And then Joost will come to Rob. Are you seeing anything on the putting or slopes and that sort of stuff? And that's how the communication works. It's very different to a USPGA that I don't think you've done the USPGA, Rob.
I haven't.
But when you're out there, you're looking at different lines and you're on the green yourself. You can, like short game, you can look at grain, you can look at the sand, and then you can get in with the player. And the Masters, it's like they have to work it out themselves. We can't hold their hand to give the extra confidence boost. It's really the caddy from experiencing that knows the golf course. It was Martin Gray at that time, and the player. And it's them working as a team. So this is how we're going to battle the golf course. And that's what I found so unique as an event.
You mentioned game plan, that sort of stuff just earlier. And I think it's one course that, because it's played every year at the same course, everybody knows pretty much inside and out each hole without having even played it, which is crazy. From your perspective as to what you think in this tournament, in the Masters coming up, what are going to be some of the key holes for the players out there to, first of all, navigate where perhaps a par is going to be a really good score, and then some holes where they've really got to go low, they've got to make an eagle or they've got to make a birdie to make an advance on the leaderboard. What are going to be the key holes in play?
Well, you're saying that, but I don't know whether the guys listening know, is they've got overseed happening at the moment. They've got ryegrass to Bermuda grass. So all in all, the golf course is actually going to play different. But going on to the actual question, they've got to produce the score on the back nine. That's going to stay. You can attack certain flags. They all know the history of where players choke or where players make things wrong. But it's like 9 with that front left pin, where that runoff is going to be so much slower. There was an interview, I believe, with Tiger last night or Monday, where he said, yeah, if you leave it short, you know you're not going to run down 20 yards. So you can start attacking certain flags that you could never think about before. So it's going to be quite cool when you're going into 12, when you're going into 15, the par 5s. In my perspective, because it's going to be playing longer, your line from the tee is going to be different. So it's very much the tactical attributes from per player, per driving distance, how they're going to attack it. Like DeChambeau, he's talking about cutting off tree lines by playing to different fairways because of his length. It's a very much of a different course per player and per their strengths and weaknesses of their games.
And of course, how they prepare the greens. That's different from day to day. With the sub-air system, if they are very dry, they can be very fast. And if they mow them, how do they call it? Double cut, freaky double cut.
Yeah, they do double cuts. Yeah.
Then you've got another course, and it's what Phil says. The last 9, the back 9, those are the most important holes to play your scores. There you can score, but yeah, play it at the 4th round or the 1st round. It can be very different, I think.
Because what did they say is, was it Poltz that done an interview? He said the practice round on Tuesday, it's a different golf course than Thursday, and Saturday is a completely different golf course to Friday. So they can set it up so different daily, especially with the sub-air system. You know, they can say, do you know what? It's a little bit wet. The greens are getting a bit easy. We're just going to dry them out completely overnight. Then you turn up and then you're chipping. Obviously, the practice area, I don't think they've got sub-air. But then you're playing your second shot into the first and you go, hey, this is different. So they can really put the surprise on the golfers. And when Joost done the low round of the day on the Saturday, the first year, he was playing, I believe he was playing with Jason Day, and the third hole, Jason was a little bit too close to the green, and they would drop. They were fairly solid, pretty slick as well. Joost hit a full shot in. I think he hit wedge or 9, and it landed front green, rolled out. Jason Day landed middle green and actually missed the green long left, just because he didn't have enough spin on the ball. So that is how much Augusta can make you look a great golfer, very mediocre.
Well, especially what you said, Phil, about the greens, the way they prepare the green, the practice greens and the greens on the course, they can be different. So you have to get used to the greens when you play the second green.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit difficult.
Really interesting you mentioned about the greens with the sub-air systems, that sort of stuff. I think we're all familiar with the video we saw of Jon Rahm yesterday, skipping it across the lake and acing it, which was pretty awesome. But what that really gave a good feel for, and I don't think when watching it on TV, it's quite, viewers can't comprehend it, the undulations in the green, the complexes. And you got that vision when Rahm hit it probably 20 yards right at the pin, and it worked its way all the way around. Rob, sort of as a putting coach, how do you deal with that? How does it differ from a normal tournament when it comes to coaching players? What's your focus?
Well, the preparation, of course, starts way ahead of that tournament, because you have to get used about the speed of the green, so how easy a ball goes, and it has to be something in your subconsciousness. That's very important, because when you have to think during your stroke, you've got a real problem. So the way you prepare for that tournament is to play on fast greens. At that time we played at the Dutch, and they made it stimp 12 for us, the course and the practice facilities. So we spend a lot of hours on that greens to get used of the firmness and to get used of the speed of the ball. So that should be something which should be in your subconsciousness. And then it affects your speed, of course, but it affects as well the way you read the green. Because when greens are faster, you have to play more lines, bigger lines you normally don't play. So that's a big thing. And what you see on television at the Masters, it's not as clear as what you see it live. There are huge lines, big difference between the heights. So you have to prepare breaking putts. But it can be a little bit difficult, because at the practice facilities, the greens are pretty flat over there. So you have to do that in your preparation, in the States, because there they've got those type of greens, and fortunately, the Dutch made it for us as well at stimp 12. So we were lucky about that.
With those breaks that you were mentioning, and the emphasis on the technique from a putting perspective, as a coach, what are you looking for? Perhaps when you were working with Joost at the Masters, what was one of the key things you were looking for in his stroke? Perhaps at impact, or perhaps at setup. What were some of the principles as a putting coach you were really concerned with to tighten up when coaching somebody at the Masters? Well,
when you go to the Masters, most of the job is already done, of course, because you're working with a tour player who has got great fundamentals. But I'm always looking at a proper setup, his eyes on top of the ball, or maybe a little bit inside of the ball, because he has to judge a line as straight. His perspective, a straight line, should be seen straight. So you are working with some eye dominance and always checking that, and as well his preferred eye position, a little bit inside the ball. But that can depend from day to day. It can depend because of the color of the green, because of the brightness of the sun. It can be a little bit fatigue. How do you call that? A little bit tired. So his eye muscles doesn't respond very well. So we always do a line perception test to make sure his putter face is perpendicular to the target line, to the chosen target line, and then always working on speed drills. It has to be in his subconsciousness. You don't want to think about your putting while you're standing on super fast greens at Augusta. So he has to gain some confidence during his practice with some simple drills, easy drills. But for example, we played a lot with 3 balls, hit the first one, and just look what happens. Hit the second one, just look what happens. And that's something, then he's learning automatically. So that is, sometimes easy drills are the best way to prepare for the most difficult parts of the tournament.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Just to flip that onto the other side then, obviously everybody's dream is to play Augusta. It's one of those that the average Joe, 18 handicap golfer perhaps, who's never been before, everybody says they want to play Augusta along with St Andrews, that sort of stuff. Try and give the listeners a bit of a feel as to how difficult they're going to find it if they were to tee it up tomorrow on the Masters. How hard are they going to find putting on the greens? How hard are they going to find driving the fairways and navigating their way around the course? I'll start with you, Rob, and then we'll go to you, Phil.
Well, a major part is, of course, Phil his work, because when Joost has to putt from the wrong position of the green, then he's unable to make a 1-putt, and probably he's unable to make a 2-putt. So Phil has a big deal in that. But from putting perspective, of course, you don't want to give yourself a fast downhiller. So in his game plan, he must be aware when he can attack a flag and when he should be more defensive to a flag. But yeah, once you are on the green, just reach your line and play your best shot you can play at that moment. Don't think about the result, just stay in the process and believe in yourself that when you are under the gun, you can still play your best putting. That's the way you prepare on the green. And sometimes you left yourself a fast downhiller, then make it the best of it. But I think Phil has the best answer to that, buddy.
Yeah, Joe average. I think every recreational golfer out there, if we look at the top end scale, scratch to 5, I'd put my money on it that none of them would break 100. That you cannot describe how difficult it is. What Rob said, if you miss your tee shot, you block for your second shot. From the block second shot, you've got to hopefully get it in the vicinity of the green. Then you're going to chip against a very tight grain. If your chipping technique isn't perfect, you skin it over the back. Then you're going to maybe chunk it because you're scared to skin it again. Then you get your putter out. Then you make a 6-putt. Then you move on to hole 2. It's literally that intimidating. The greens, they're actually very small segments, and you miss that one spot by a yard, you could end up 20 yards from the hole. And because of the speed of the greens and the undulations, you will get made fun of. And you can see some of the scores that are out there from PGA Tour players. They can themselves shoot 85, 86. And it's an intimidating track. And seeing it, you think, it doesn't look that bad. But then you get 20 rows of people left and right, that fairway, and all of a sudden is gone this, and yeah, it's a golf course that you can't explain how tough it is. And Morocco, the Prince tried to make one of his golf courses Augusta greens, and not one basic European Tour player could play it. That was just too difficult.
It's too difficult.
So you cannot copy Augusta. It's a one special golf course that once a year you are challenged to the highest level.
I'd say that's probably scared me off, but I'm quite happy going around and hacking it in 100 if it means playing that place.
I'd take 100. Phil, I've got a question that may be a little bit more directed to you, although I'm obviously interested to know what Rob thinks as well. But you and I spoke about 4 years ago, just pre-2016 Olympics. And we were talking at Wentworth for the BMW PGA Championship, and we were talking about preparation and what you do for a tournament. And something that has actually stuck with me since then, you've had a real effect on me, is about preparation. Because on the one hand, and I thought it was a really kind of interesting thought point, is on the one hand, you've got to prepare for a different environment. Obviously with the Masters, it's familiar, but obviously you don't get a lot of practice time. You can only play there at one time a year. And we were talking about that in relation to going down to Rio for the Olympics, and what do you do to prepare for a tournament? But equally, and I think as Rob said a little bit earlier on, a lot of the preparation is already done. And these guys are so good that the preparation really is tightening up of things. And I've always found that balance between the two really interesting. So I think in relation to the Masters, I'm fascinated to know, when you do your prep before and when you do your prep when you're actually there, what are some of those things that you're just trying to tighten up that perhaps are different to, the week before? So, for example, obviously it would have been great if Joost had been playing this week. I'm sure he'll be there next year. Last week, he was over on Aphrodite Hills, over in Cyprus. What might he be doing differently if he moved from one place to another?
Yeah, well, that's what's so special about the European Tour. You're playing in different environments, week in, week out, different weather, different golf course conditions. When we were preparing for Rio or for literally any event, we do the same thing. And why make something more special than what it is? It's special when you're there. So we tighten up what Rob first and foremost said regarding his putting. I do the same for swing and short game, base fundamentals, setup, getting the right alignments. And when he's got that, we're working on flight and ball deviation, like fades or draws. But what we noticed the year he first was out in America, it was the advantage for Joost because he hits the ball high. Him, Rory McIlroy, Tiger, just three names that pop up. They've got that in common. And Joost, because of that, he's number 4 ball striker in the world. So, yeah, that is a huge advantage when going to altitude golf courses or courses that play that little bit longer. And it's keeping it simple. It's keeping the brain at rest. And you saw when we done the prep at Wentworth, I think he opened up with a 7 under in that week that we spoke. It was in 2016, wasn't it? And where he had it so simple in his mind, the execution was just that much easier. So his subconscious was doing the work for him. And that is the key for every elite player at that high level. They do the prep to have less pressures or less thought processing during the tournament.
And Rob, you mentioned as well, you're working with someone such as Anne van Dam as well, who we know is, out on the world stage. Do you approach a player and say, or how do you get them to maintain the balance again, perhaps of, you're at a big tournament, you need to embrace this, take in the crowd, take in the sight of sounds, or are you saying try and block it out and focus on what you're doing and ignore it? Or is there a sort of, a balance to be had between the two?
Well, at least don't try to block it out. Just accept the circumstances and play your best shot. I think it's what Phil says, the most important part for the elite players are the last 2 seconds before you play your shot. The last 2 seconds, what do you think? Where do you think about? And a lot of preparation is done in advance. So you are always training in that 2 seconds. And I think that's if you can manage that part of the game, it doesn't matter how many people are standing and watching you, or how big the pressure is. For example, for putting, the only task you have is to play your perfect putt, and that will be directly to your target. And in your subconsciousness, you trust your speed, and before that, you read the green. And to complement Phil, when we play the European Tour, you've got a lot of circumstances, grainy greens in Asia. For example, where I train a lot in Spain, the course where I train as a very grainy green, but 10 miles ahead, you've got greens with no grain. So you have to prepare your player to play strokes on grainy greens. So that gives another kind of preparation, green reading. But when you go to the Masters, you've got not much grain because they cut all the grass away. So the preparation will be more in speed control, distance control.
Sticking with you just for a second, Rob, as well, and then again we'll get Phil's thoughts. Can you talk us through a little bit about the routine that Joost in particular went through? So maybe on a practice round, waking up, how many hours that might be before tee time and that kind of stuff, as well as then any differences of how that changes to the actual day pre-round.
Well, I can talk about his putting routine. Phil knows everything about the daily routine. But it starts on the green, getting some feel for the speed. Avoiding tree putts is the first thing you have to achieve during a round. So not making any tree putts. Then you go to the shorter ones, let's say 10 feet and less. You get a lot of them, so make sure you sink a lot. We always did 10 foot game, 10 foot, 9 foot, 8 foot, and see what happens. If his miss is a little bit too fast, maybe he should have another focus. Maybe he's playing underneath the hole, so he has to focus more on line, playing a higher line, things like that. What are the tendencies that specific day? And you have to deal with that and then go on to the course. And putting, normally it's about 20-25 minutes before the round starts. Phil, I think now it's your time.
Is it me now? Oh, thank you, Rob. That was really good. You've done well. No. Daily routine. On the bigger events, Joost takes the team out. If he's got a morning start, have his breakfast, go to the physio, get warmed up. And that's normally 2 hours in front of the start time. And then he got himself an hour and 15 minutes for his warm up. He'll start on the putting green. He'd do his work. If when Rob was there, he'd get out with Rob. Okay, get the basic fundamentals, exactly what Rob said. And then from there, we get looking at the wedges, and from the wedges we build it up. Start looking at ball flights. When we hit the 6 iron, we're starting to look at direct targets, getting into the routine. Okay, there's your start line, what flight you're going to hit. So he's more in the now. So he's starting to then, play the fourth. Okay, what do you see on the fourth? The pin position's there. Get the visualization. Okay, hit the shot. So we're trying to then get into the par threes. The second, the par 5, slightly hanging lie. Okay, how are you going to hit that? What do you see? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hit that shot. Okay, let me see it. So you're trying to give on course scenarios on the range. And we do that every single event where I'm present. So it relaxes the brain, gets the if there's any tension, it removes it. And just before we tee off, I go to the putting area with him and just talk crap, just to keep the brain nice and relaxed. And he'll walk to the first tee. I'll give him a box, and we literally in Dutch it's translated is kick ass, buddy. And he's out there, and then it's up to him. But the preparation is literally to the minute the same every single event.
Food for thought there. especially when you consider the fact that a lot of us, or a lot of people I've coached over the years, has turned up with a gazillion thoughts in their head on their newly built swing that makes them swing it like a tour pro and then top it off the tee. That's usually the first result you see. But okay, so back to the Masters just quickly before we finish off. We're obviously having this conversation right now, and Phil, I can see behind you, it's pitch black. It's November, it's autumn. It's very different to what we're accustomed to with the Masters in April usually. How, you touched on it earlier, but how is the course going to play differently to an April Masters?
It's going to play longer. The shots around the green are just so different to what we see with ryegrass. They can get that so tight. You know, like I said, perfection is the only way of playing a shot. You'll see mediocre short game guys be able to get away with missing greens. But on the other side, the greens are still going to be a nightmare. There's greens, they can still make them concrete. They can get them as quick as they wish. The key, in my eyes, the big difference is how far is the ball going to roll? Because of the different sort of grass, because they're going into Bermuda grass. Tiger, he's had the experience. He's played this time of year, just having a knock around the golf course. So he's got an idea, and I say an idea what is going to challenge him. But for all the other guys, it's a newness, isn't it? So, hey, Augusta with Bermuda grass, this is going to be weird. So it's going to have challenges in its length. It's playing longer. So you're going to hit longer irons into the greens. So again, what I said at the start, your game plan is going to be so player specific. What are we going to do? And then you're going to see in April, you'll see the same guys out there hitting completely different shots into greens. So, and that's what they can do at Augusta. They do an overseed. We'll make it longer. Okay. The Masters in April, we'll make it quicker. So both have got that challenge.
Yeah, totally. And Rob?
Yeah, we have to see what's going to happen through that days. I think they can adjust the course a little bit when there are some, not complaints, but they will wait for the reaction of the players. And of course, they see the ryegrass, they've got the Bermuda grass. What's going to happen? I can't tell it because I've never seen it, but one thing is for sure, it's a little bit more wet, so the course is playing a little bit longer. But the greens, they can do with the greens what they want to do with the greens. So we have to wait for that.
I think the biggest thing is how it eyes. This is the first year that they've played without public. You know, there's no patrons there. So the way that the holes are shaping, it's going to optically look so different compared to how it was last year. So the newcomers, they don't know any different, but the more experienced Masters player, it's gonna eye different. So I think that's also going to be a challenge.
Yeah, but it can be an advance. I think it looks a little bit wider because you're not standing between lots of crowds. So it can look a little bit bigger, and that can temper the mind a bit. But for a player like Tiger Woods, he likes to play for the gallery. It will be more challenging. It's when there are a lot of how do you call them, patrons?
Yeah.
So and that's really interesting because what Aston was asking about earlier with which one do you having crowds and not having crowds. Some players relish crowds. Some people will probably suffer from it. So it's going to be a very different tournament for a lot of people. I don't think it'd be a Masters 2020 Masters conversation without having a bit of a chat about the man of the moment, Mr. DeChambeau, US Open champion. I think I saw a quote from him earlier in the week that he was planning on hitting driver as far and right as possible on hole 13 to give himself a better angle into that green. I saw him hit a video where his ball speed was up to 200 miles an hour, which was insane. And he's playing with something like a 68-inch driver now. He seems to get an inch longer every tournament. First of all, is he the favourite going into it this week, or have you got your eyes on somebody else?
I think any guy out there which has got distance, it's seen and it's proven. Long hitters 9 out of 10 times will win it. Okay, Zach Johnson, when he won, he's not the longest out there, but it's really showing that it's not only driving distance, but it's the driving distance with the accuracy that will win it will win the Masters. And Bryson, yeah, he's got a chance, but he's not using the 48-inch driver. He done a test on it. He's sticking with the 46 or 46 and a half, sorry. But Mickelson, he's thinking of going longer shafted to get more distance out of it. But again, is it going to be that big advantage gaining the 7 yards, taking bunkers out of play on the tees? And if he's not gaining it, he won't use it. So there's reasoning around their madness, you could say.
Well, and the long guys, they can play shorter clubs into the green and create an early stop. It all depends how they prepare the greens, but you have to play well on the greens. And I think Jon Rahm is one of my guys. He adapted himself pretty well the last 7 rounds, I think, at Augusta National. He did it pretty well at the Memorial Tournament. There were super fast greens. So I think a combination of length from the tee and a good week on the greens.
Yeah.
I put my bets on Jon Rahm, Phil.
I think the Wolf, I reckon he's got a chance. I don't know why.
That would be perfect.
He's just got the funky sandal guy coach. Gankers, the main man Gankers. Love it. How cool would that be if he goes out and wins and Gankers turns up in his flip flops and his camo shorts? That'd be so cool.
We'll see.
Talk about personalities, and Tyrrell Hatton's certainly playing well at the minute as well, and he certainly is capable of bringing up some interesting conversations with his persona and behaviour at times. I fancy him as a potential as well.
Yeah, I tell you, Tyrrell, I've seen play quite a lot, and he's got so much passion, and some of the comments he gives to his caddy, like if he hits a bad shot, he just says, "Have you seen anything as bad as that? Be honest with me, you haven't, have you?" And that's the sort of how he takes the mick out of himself. But he's such an underrated golfer. The guy, he's got proper talent, and I tell you what, I'd book him. I reckon he'd be a top 10 with our little Tyrrell. And yeah, Tommy's got a chance. I love to see McIlroy win because, again, booms it down there. He's just got to trust his wedges and what Rob said, his putting. And his putting seems to be the Achilles heels when it's not quite. When it's not quite on, it's the putting which is his downfall. And I think he's learning a lot every year he's going out there.
Almost at time to start wrapping up, I think. One of the things I thought we'd just quickly touch on, which is a little bit less Masters centric, but I thought it would be good just to get a little bit of an update from both of you. We heard a little bit of your background. Very interested to see a little bit more about both your futures. So, Rob, I don't know if you want to start off. You know, you've got your putting academy in Holland there. How's that going, and how do you see that developing over time working with your players?
Well, it's developing good. My winters are fully booked, so that goes pretty well. I'm working with a lot of good amateur players, with a couple of players on tour on the satellite tours now. It's going okay, and we just wait what happens with the results.
And Phil, when we spoke earlier, you were telling me briefly how you spent a very productive few months during lockdown, which might speak a little bit about your future as well.
Yeah, I had 2.5 months thinking, okay, I can complain or I can be productive. I actually have given some coach the coaches presentations, and I thought, how cool would it be to make those presentations into books? So I've actually managed to finish those off today. I got a phone call that the first book has been translated from English to Dutch, and it's going to be published in December, which is quite cool. And I'm also busy with a project where Rob is also involved, but we won't say much about that because that's going to be something really cool for 2021. But yeah, it's something I've always dreamed about is getting my knowledge out there and sharing knowledge. And Rob as well, you know, we've known each other for a long time, and we always have, like tonight, you know, we're good friends as well as colleagues. And sharing knowledge is our key. You know, if we can get a little bit better coaching, it produces better golfers, which produces the snowball effect for the future of our game.
Sounds about the perfect note to end on, I think. So I think what we'll do is we'll wrap up there. And we've firstly got to say, from Tom and myself and from everyone at the CPG, a massive thank you to you both for taking the time out to have that discussion and to kind of reveal some of the backstage secrets and those bits and pieces that you've worked on over the years with Joost and also with your players as well. And if by some miracle, then one day I end up playing Augusta National myself, I'll be listening to this on repeat on the plane over to try and make sure that I'm prepping in the right way. But yeah, a big thank you to you guys. We really appreciate it.
No, other than that, just to the listeners, thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to share the episode with your friends and colleagues. Give it a rating, and if you don't already, then be sure to subscribe to the CPG podcast as well. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, and any other preferred listening platform for you to join and engage in the conversation. And we'll see you next time.